Welcome to Breakthrough Divorce Coaching. I'm your host, Karen Covey, and this is a very special series of the Off the Fence podcast where you get a front row seat to live coaching sessions with real people facing real challenges in divorce. There's no scripts, no theory, just raw, powerful conversations that lead to real breakthroughs because one breakthrough can change everything. If you've ever wondered what divorce coaching looks like behind the scenes, this is your chance to find out. So without any further ado, let's go witness a breakthrough. Hi, welcome to Breakthrough Divorce Coaching. Tell me, what's your name and what can I do for you?
My name is Anne, and I'm going through an active divorce with litigation right now. So I've got a lot going on. I'd love any advice for going through the process and trying to keep my head above water.
I can understand completely. But let's start here. Let's narrow this down a little bit. How long were you married? Do you have children? And how long have you been in the divorce process?
The relationship was 10 years. I was married for, I think, just bordering on 8. There is one child who is old enough to understand definitely what's going on, and I've been in the process now for 3 years.
Wow, so you've been in the court system for 3 years.
Yeah.
That tells me a couple of things. In terms of the conflict level in your marriage and divorce, can you tell me about that?
High conflict, alleged abuse, because the criminal code requires it to be alleged at this point, even though it was definitely present in the relationship through verbal, physical, mental, and financial. And now it's higher conflict, but with a good buffer in place because of the distance and the not existing in the same space anymore.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you and your still husband, but hopefully ex soon,
Hmm.
are not living together anymore.
No.
What's happening with your child?
So they live with me 100% of the time with limited visitation.
What do you mean by limited? Tell me about that.
So it's only for 6 hours on one day of the week and 2.5 hours for another day of the week following school hours. We do them back to back just to make kind of easier for planning life in general. And originally, the ex-spouse wanted more time on just one day, but thankfully the judges in the court system figured that what they were asking for was much too long of a day for a child to be going through. It was longer than an average work day. So it's very limited because of, even though it's alleged abuse, it's still, there's documentation of an emergency protection order, a restraining order, all of that stuff still on file.
Okay, and the emergency protection order, is that for you and your child or just you?
The EPO was just for me, and then I engaged with a lawyer probably within about 2 weeks of calling the authorities because there was a huge incident of domestic violence, and so I enacted a restraining order for both me and my child. Both have actually since lapsed, but that's only because everything has calmed down and there's nothing prevalent to keep the order going forward.
Okay, what concerns me, what makes my radar go up is the fact that your soon-to-be ex has a very limited parenting time schedule with your
Hmm.
child.
Yeah,
Courts don't do that unless they have a reason to, right?
yeah.
So what's going on? Is your ex a danger to your child? Is the visitation that he has supervised, or he just gets straight up, some hours in a day? Tell me more
Hmm.
about what that is.
So it was supervised for 8 weeks, and then it transitioned after no incidents were reported during that supervision. It did transition to what it is now, which is unsupervised access for those time frames. Because it's so limited, one, it's because they live in a different city. There's a big distance factor to it as
Okay.
well, and they work, and their work schedule just doesn't allow for that. So they were asking for only 1 day initially. And then what the judge handed down was like 1 day for so many hours and another day for so many hours because that's what they decided was the best course of action. But yeah, it's one, logistics, and two, because of the past incidents that they did take that into account and consideration, even though it was alleged.
Okay. So tell me how I can help you. What is the problem that you're struggling with? I know it has something to do with your child, but tell me
Hmm.
more about how I can help you.
I think it's just that balance of, yes, I understand what I'm not allowed legally to say or share and all that kind of stuff too, but just trying to keep your head above water when you've got 3 years under your belt now, which is where I'm at. And I'm just like, I'm so tired of it all. And I don't want to say I'm burnt out, but I'm getting to that point where I'm just like, I just want it done. And I don't know a way to move it forward. I mean, we've got the lawyers in place and all that stuff, but it just seems like it's so dragged out. And the other side of it is like anytime I bring up a concern, and we only do email or text, we do in-person exchange, but it's very cut and dry. Not a lot of conversations go on. It's that frustration factor where anytime I bring up a concern or request, I'm instantly gaslit. Instantly. And it's not like I'm writing these heinous, emotionally charged emails or requests. It's just basic, like, hey, can you do this? Or can you help with the care more? Or can you consider changing this pattern so that it's a little bit more emotionally supportive for our mutual child? And it's just like every turn, it's gaslighting. And I know I'm in therapy actively, so is my child, but it's even though you know you were married to a narcissist, it still doesn't make you feel any less crazy for feeling like you're asking for the world when you're just asking for basic human decency.
Yeah. I First of all, know that you're not crazy. And this happens to everybody, but everyone who is genuinely in a relationship with a narcissist, I mean, you can be legally divorced, but when you have a child together, you're still tied to that person. So
Mhm.
you said you were being gaslit. Give me an example. Tell me what's going on.
So my child was recently given a medical diagnosis, and one of the things that were recommended was, hey, if there's any smoking at all, any smoke exposure, make sure your vehicles are detailed, make sure they're not exposed and stuff. And so I said, hey, I know that you smoke in your vehicle. My kid comes home smelling like it. I've seen you do it when we drive up, like kind of deal. Immediately they went on the offensive or defensive, sorry, saying, this is frivolous. You can't keep him from me. I pay and I barely see him. Like, oh, it was horrendous, honestly. And I kind of laughed too because I was just like, you realize this is all in writing, right? Like, this is all in writing. This is making you look absolutely terrible when I'm asking just for a little bit of backup and support, not asking you to drive to any of the medical appointments, to pay for any of the medications, to do anything else except for detail your vehicle. And it was just not a pleasant experience. I honestly, by the time I finished reading the email a couple times, I just was laughing. I was just like, this is absolutely nuts.
Yeah,
Like, what?
yeah, and it's gonna be. So here's the challenge, right? You can set this up to go through the court system and get a resolution of the issue. But the problem is the court isn't with your husband 24/7, and they're
Hmm.
not with him whenever he's with your child. So if you, let's say he says, "Oh, yeah, I'm totally, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm not smoking in the car with our child." Great. But you pick up your kid and your kid smells like smoke. Well, how are you going to prove that? You're going to say the child smells like smoke. He's going to say, no, the child doesn't. And then the only person who can testify is your child. And there's no
Yeah.
court on the planet that's going to put your kid in the middle that way. Now,
No.
can you get an attorney or a guardian appointed for the kid? And then, the child talks to the attorney and the attorney talks to the judge and yeah, you can do this, but you are just you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars just for that one thing. And the
Hmm.
problem is when you've got somebody who's high conflict like that, there's going to be the next thing and the next
Yeah.
thing and the next thing. And ultimately, it ends up breaking you
Hmm.
because you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the court system that still didn't solve the problem.
No, just begging for somebody to basically show up. Well, I also know realistically they didn't show up in the relationship. Why are they going to show up outside of it, right? And that's I'm 3 years out and I'm feeling much better about that side of it. But it's just that frustration of I even say it all the time, like it's not about me. It is not about you. It is only about our kid. Can we just
Right.
please focus on that and their well-being? But yeah, it's not worth the financial burden, right? Because on the other side of it, I'm also dealing with divorce litigation still and trying to settle assets and liabilities and all that stuff. And that's been dragging out because they can't get their stuff together. Their lawyer can't get their stuff together. And I'm just like shaking my head because the only time we hear from his lawyer is when he wants something.
Hmm.
And
So
I'm like, what?
yeah, no. But know this much, you are not crazy. This is your
Mhm.
child. Everything you're asking for is common sense and reasonable. But the problem that you're having is that the legal system was not designed to solve what is a family and social problem, right?
Mm,
It does it really poorly. So you can put in, like, even if you got a court order, your next step, if you want to go through the legal process, is to say, court order saying my child has, I don't know what the medical condition is, I'm going to make it up,
mhm.
asthma.
Yeah.
Okay, kid's got asthma, can't be around smoke. It's bad for him. Great. So you put it in a court order that says dad can't smoke around the child, but now how do you enforce that? The only
Yeah.
way is by putting the child in the middle to testify what's going on with dad, which, by the way, makes your child's life and relationship with dad really bad. Like, if it isn't
Yeah.
already bad, and I suspect it's not great, this
No.
is not going to help.
Well, I don't
So,
want them to resent me either.
right, mom, you're making things worse. And what happens often is that the child will take out their frustration on the more stable parent
Hmm.
because they can, because you're the one who's safe. You're the one who the child can act out in front of because they know you're still going to love them.
Yeah. And by
You know?
golly, that happens way too much already.
Yeah. So, what you want to do, I mean, can you go through the legal system? Yes. And it might be worth having a conversation with your lawyer about, okay, if I do this, what does that look like? What can we do? At least if we have it in a court order, you have something to enforce. If you don't even have it in the court order to begin with, that's, the judge is going to say, so what, he was smoking, so what? So now you've got to amend the court order and then get that and then have him violate. So, like, it's a process, right?
Well,
So,
the ironic thing is it's in the court order about not smoking around the child, but how do you enforce them not smoking in the vehicle before or after? That's the problem now. And I'm just shaking my head. It seems
right,
like you have to think of every possible scenario and somehow put it in there and somehow have them sign off on all of that too, which they don't want to.
right. And he's not going to do, if he's a smoker, he's going to smoke in his car, period, full stop. And he's not going to detail the car every single time right before your child is in it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So the better or the more productive way to deal with this is to start teaching your child how they can cope. Like,
Okay.
okay, you're in the car. If there's smoke in the car, can you roll down the window?
Hmm.
Do you, can you be, give the child coping skills, hopefully that are unobtrusive enough, because the kid doesn't want to, no child wants to live in conflict. They've done study after study about kids going through divorce, and what they found is that it's not necessarily the divorce that hurts the kids, it's the conflict, whether the couple is still married or divorced or going through a divorce, right? It's the conflict. Children don't like it. They don't thrive when their environment is unstable, and when the parents are fighting or the parents are fighting with them, it's unstable. So what can your child do? For example, maybe, they can roll down the window. Maybe they've got, does your child have an inhaler or something that in case they can't breathe, there's an option, right? So they've got an inhaler. They've got, I don't know exactly how old your child is or whether they have a cell phone, but to be able to, to know that if there was an emergency, if they started having real problems breathing, the child can call 911. You're empowering your child to start to make decisions for themselves. And it also starts with empowering your child to care about themselves, to know that that's okay. Because if you and your kid both were living in an abusive situation, it wears you down bit by bit, little by little. And after a while, you start to think, well, it's not that bad. I can do this. It's not that hard. Maybe I'm not worth it. Maybe I'm being too picky. Maybe I'm, and you think that way, and you're thinking that, and you're an adult. Imagine what a child is thinking. And so the best thing that you can do for your child is to start empowering them by having them know they are worth it. They can speak up. It's okay if daddy or even mommy doesn't agree with what you said. You're entitled to have an opinion. Now, obviously, they don't get to run the show, they're still a kid. But,
Yeah, right.
it's like, I want to have ice cream for dinner, mom. No, you're not. But that they can say what they feel. And in order to do this and give your child the confidence to be able to do it with their father, who they're probably afraid of,
Yeah.
um, they've got to be able to do it with you first, which means you're going to put up with some stuff from the kid as they're trying this on, and because your child isn't going to know where the line is, and you're going to have to say, yeah, this is okay, this is too much, and this is what you can do. And is your child in therapy?
Yes. Yeah.
Work with your child's therapist to say, how can we create coping skills for, my child, that will enable them to survive the next decade, 12 years, whatever it is, survive the rest of their childhood,
Right.
right? And coping skills that will keep them safe, keep them, and I mean emotionally and physically safe with the least amount of friction with your spouse, soon to be ex. Does that make sense?
hmm Yeah, it does make sense because at the end he comes home all the time and says, well, he doesn't listen to me, or he gets weird about stuff, or argues with me. And some of it's just regular kid wanting too many things, but a lot of it is he just gets shut down before he can speak up at all.
And he's got to understand that that's not because he's doing something wrong.
hmm
He's got to, and this is the thing that will actually serve him moving forward in life. You can, it's okay to speak up. And yeah, if daddy isn't listening to you, if he's shutting you down, you know what? It's not because there's something wrong with you. That's just the way daddy is. Now, you don't want to throw your ex under the bus
Yeah,
either. I mean, it's got to be age appropriate what you're saying to your child.
right.
Um, but your kid's got to get tools. Your kid is going to have to live with that person as a father for the rest of their life. The sooner they can start to understand how to deal with that reality and not internalize it, because that's what children do. They internalize what, daddy is saying to them as meaning they're bad or they're wrong or they did something they shouldn't have or what have you, and they keep it inside. And so
hmm
your job is to help your child understand that it's not their problem and that daddy just has his own stuff, his own issues. And you want to encourage that relationship because children love their parents even when their parents do horrible things to them. I mean,
Yeah, I've noticed that.
it's it's unbelievable. I mean, I for a very brief time in my legal career did some cases in abuse and neglect court, and it just sucks the soul right out of you when you
Yeah.
see what some parents do to kids. And hurt people. And when a hurt parent hurts a child, that child grows up to hurt their child. So
Hmm.
think about what you're trying to do is stop the chain.
Okay.
Stop the chain in you and stop the chain in your child. And the way to do that is to keep them in therapy and start empowering them now with the tools they need to differentiate between this is daddy's issue and this is something that like I can't do because I'm a kid and I don't get to make the rules. Like I don't get to have dinner at midnight or
Hmm.
whatever it is that they want to do. But that's honestly the best thing that you can do. And they're not mutually exclusive. You can go the court system route if you choose. And maybe the smoking in the car, isn't the issue it's not the hill you want to die on
No.
because maybe your child's still going to be okay, maybe a little uncomfortable, but they're not. Now, if your child had such huge respiratory problems that this was going to impact their health, well, then, yeah, maybe this is, the fight you want to take through the court system. But it's about figuring out what's the most important thing for your kid and then doing that. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense because I've struggled for like the last 3 years, even before that, of towing the line between being honest with them and also trying to not bias, right? I've had so many friends who have gone through this before as kids and said like, well, I resented one parent because they always badmouth the other parent, or I resented the other parent because they um always were putting me down, and then my other parent never spoke up for me, so now I was mad at them too. And I'm like, I don't think there's any way you can fully win.
No, no, you're not going to. And part of that is realizing that and giving yourself some grace. You're doing the best you can, right? You're trying to get this divorce over. You're trying to heal yourself from the abuse you experienced and protect your child.
Hmm.
So it's give yourself grace and know that no matter what, your kid is going to blame you for something. I mean, because it always comes down to mother. Whatever the mother did, it screwed up the kid somehow. That's just the way it is. But it's about at some point, if you really do the best you can and you really give your child these tools, at some point, usually after the teenage years, they start to figure out that what you did was really a good thing, right? But you're 100% right. Do not throw your ex under the bus. You don't have to badmouth them, but you also don't have to make excuses for them and say, oh, well, he's the dad, so he can do whatever it was that he did. No, you can say, daddy has a different opinion. Daddy thinks that, daddy thinks that this is the way to do things, and I disagree. And two adults can disagree about things, and that's why we're not married anymore. But you're the lucky one. You get to see how things work in two different houses and decide, when you're an adult, how you want to live.
That's actually a really awesome way to frame it for a kid too, because you know, a lot of the, let's say, the 90s kids movies were about, well, you get two Christmases and two birthdays and stuff, but I've never heard it as you get to decide what you like and don't like because you get two different perspectives.
Yeah. And when they look at all of this is about shifting the way your child looks at it and giving them, like I said, the tools they need to cope with whatever it is they're dealing with. And then as they grow, those skills will expand. I mean, you've got to be age appropriate, but the skills will expand and expand. And so by the time they're 18 years old and they do get to decide what they want to do, they not only have different perspectives of how they want to live their life and what kind of relationship they want to have with each parent, but they've also got a skill set that will follow them for the rest of their life so that they don't have to act out of frustration and continue patterns that aren't productive for anybody. Make sense?
100% it does, yeah.
Awesome. Well, any other questions or are you good with this?
I'm good with this. This feels really good about a better pathway forward to helping support my child better, which is, the crux of everything with my divorce.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, remember, the legal system isn't designed to solve every problem. So you've got to really take a look at, is this the kind of problem that I'm likely to get a resolution with in court? Or am I better off just trying to bolster my child as much as I can, so that my child can deal better? So,
Hmm.
okay, that's it. And thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed today's episode, if you'd like to see more live divorce coaching, do me a big favor. Give this episode a thumbs up and drop the word "more" in the comments below. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show and apply to get your own free live divorce coaching, just go to KarenCovey.com/free coaching to apply. That's KarenCovey.com/free coaching, all one word, and apply now.